life. I've been a pretty active Rotarian for all 37 of my years, and I've been a champion of the Rotary Foundation for at least 20 of those years. And I want to introduce two of my friends here today to promote, to tell you a little bit more about the Rotary Foundation and how we, through the foundation, we can make lasting impact. Ron Webb we've been chasing each other around the district for about 20 years. He was actually president of his Rotary Club the first time when I was district governor in 08-09. He's had a few other times being president also. But he's in the fourth year of his 3-year term as district foundation chair. So he's had plenty of experience. He is hoping to be replaced next year, which will in fact happen. But Ron is our current foundation chair. He's been very active and very good, and we'll share some words of wisdom in a minute. Now, our last speaker talked a little bit about the Rotary Foundation, about your Rotary dues and paying for the Brain Center and all this other stuff. Well, there's other staff support that we also pay for. There's club and district support, and there's foundation support. Celeste is part of the foundation team. She's the major gifts officer for Zone 32. So she serves 19, 20 districts, something like that. Celeste happens to be the past president of her Rotary Club in Tennessee. She lives in Rhode Island, but is currently actually going to Herbert to get a master's degree, so she's actually living in Cambridge, so she drove down from Cambridge this morning. So I've worked with foundation staff for at least 20 years, and she is, without a doubt, the best one I've ever worked with. She's terrific. So thank you for all your effort. Christine is still here someplace. Christine Friedman, where'd you go? Anyway, she and I are also co-chairs of a legacy campaign that might get touched on as well. So without further ado, I present Ron. Who's going first? Celeste is going to go first. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm going to try. These lights are like right in my face. Andy, you're making sure that it's bright, aren't you?
I don't need it now. It's okay.
No, it's fine. I'm so honored to be able to be here. I'm honored that Rick called and that I happened to be free this Saturday, because last Saturday I was in school. So it worked out really well for me to come on down and connect. I feel like an honorary member of District 7980 because I do try to come as often as I can to club fundraisers, to events, to meetings, to meet with donors, which is the actual purpose of my job as your major gifts officer at the foundation. And today they asked me to connect with Ron and talk a little bit about the foundation broadly and then connect it to the presidential message for next year of creating lasting impact. So I'm so excited to be here with Ron Webb. You just heard a little bit about Ron's background from Rick. I did a little digging on Ron before I got here. He doesn't know this. But I learned that Ron is celebrating his 25th year in his current club. He's been a Rotarian for 10 additional years, serving in at least 3 other clubs along the way. He's been a multiple club president many times over, an assistant governor, a district governor, served on zone committees, and in his illustrious career has now landed as your district Rotary Foundation chair. So Ron, I know that you take very seriously your role as both an educator, a facilitator to try to make all things related to the Rotary Foundation a little bit easier for the members in your district, and definitely a steward for the best and most responsible use of Rotary Foundation dollars. Rotary is so vast in its impacts, and Ron prepared some packets for all of our presidents-elect at the end that we want to make sure one goes to each club. But in it, you'll see information about Polio Plus, about the Peace Centers, about district and global grants, about disaster response, and programs of scale. Your district is one of the few that is engaged in every single one of those. That's not that common. You're extremely active and doing a tremendous amount of good, which means that Ron doesn't have the easiest job. So I wonder now, when I called him yesterday, or he called me, and I said, now Ron, how many years have you been DRFC? And he said, well, 3 years, 14 months, 17 days. And he almost got to the number of hours. It's a tough job because you guys give him so much to do. And I wonder if you can share with us, Ron, Why do you decide personally to devote so much time and energy and resources into all the work you do for this district through the foundation?
Well, first, thank you for the intro. That was more than expected. I have been in Rotary for 35 years, and when I retired for the second time back in 2018, I thought I had the time to engage more heavily in Rotary. I've decided that every one of us should be lifelong learners, and so I've done that over my career. My second career was actually as a financial advisor when you had to get the Series 7, 63, 24, and you had to do a lot of independent study and so forth. So I got used to being able to go into the internet, study things, and internalize it. One of the things I've learned over the years is if you want to become an expert on something, study it 1 hour a day for a year. So my personal goal at that time was to become the expert on my Rotary, become the expert on DAC-DB, and become Rotary expert in any area that I encountered. So when the Learning Center became available, I decided to become an expert on that. One thing I've learned through Rotary is that we do an excellent job, Rotary International, in measuring and tracking results. And everybody in this room, we can track how you've given to Rotary in the past, when you gave to Rotary in the past. The one thing that we can't quantify is why you give to Rotary. So that's an unknown that we need to bring to the forefront, and that comes through some degree of internalization. And the thing is that if we help you to knock down barriers so that you can achieve your personal goals, it's very critical that giving back, i.e. through the foundation, is a very important aspect of your life. So when I started my career, I had a series of personal goals. Now you got to remember, when I was young, minimum wage was $1 an hour. So one of my goals was to retire as a millionaire. Another one was to marry somebody that would be able to establish a lifelong relationship with. It was very critical to me. And a few other things along the way. When I was in the DG track, past District Governor Rick Bassett said something that resonated with me. He says we spend 1/3 of our life learning, we spend 1/3 of our life earning, and we spend 1/3 of our life giving back. And I resolved that down to learning, earning, returning. So but the three words that are my life goals are learning, earning, returning. I met my wife in college. Our first date was on Valentine's Day in 1968. Our second date was a week later. We went to a basketball game, and I told her that I was going to marry her. A year and a half later, she said, okay. And we've been married 57 years. So, yeah. I'm competing with Governor Don. We only have 8 grandchildren, but we have a couple through college and so forth. But all these personal goals that I put in over the years, you massage those, but you keep them and internalize them. When I had a chance to become the foundation chair after serving as a district governor, I didn't anticipate the magnitude of it, but I did anticipate the importance of it. Actually, when I was district governor and Colin Gershon was my foundation chair, I said, Colin, you have the most important job at the district. I really think that the foundation is very critical because we're serving the needs of 1,800 plus people. So I applaud Rick Bassett, who's worked very diligently to help us keep above the 1,800 mark. But the reality is that Rotary International is tracking all of us and is asking us to empower ourselves to do what's right for us as individuals. And if you think about what's important in your life, Rotary's foundation, which came into existence in 1917, gives us the ability to determine where our dollars go and how we can use those to our advantage. So when I spent my second career as a financial advisor for 17 plus years, my goal was to help people accumulate wealth, and I think I did a pretty good job of that, and I had a lot of people thank me for that. But one of the lessons learned is we need to have a good offense and we need to have a good defense. And as I look around the room, I know everybody in here had a good offense. You found a way to become educated, to become stellar citizens of your community, And you're rewarded by having the ability to acquire wealth and to put that away. One of the things I found in working with a lot of individuals is that we don't know how to create a good defense. And you say, what does that mean? Well, I worked with a lot of people that were high income earners, but they were spending money faster than they were earning it. So the net was a negative cash flow. When you get to the retirement age, where I am at, just barely, you have to start thinking of how are we going to give it away. One is you can give it to the government, other is you can give it away in such a way as to mitigate taxes and so forth. So as we work with different individuals based on your age, your income requirements and so forth, how do we optimize that? And my goal is to help you to do that. So I did spend a year studying very diligently my Rotary and Rotary Foundation, and I can help you to find information and help you to develop a strategy to optimize your cash flow to help yourself and help those around you. The good thing is the foundation empowers you to decide where your money is going to go. That's the biggest thing. I think we all get these letters in the mail in December from 103 different nonprofits, and we feel sorry for all 103 of them, and we'd love to send a $100 check to every one. And then we found out later that a couple of them that only about 15 or 20 cents on the dollar makes its way to our calls, and we feel bad about that, most of it going into the pocket of the solicitors. Rotary Foundation, with the 4-star rating for the past 17 years, has done an excellent job of demonstrating how well we manage funds. So we should be applauding those people in Evanston that are watching our dollars for us and are wearing the fiduciary hat. And as an extension of that, I wear the fiduciary hat within our district to make sure that your dollars go where you want it to go. Which means that sometimes when you want to spend money in a way that violates policy and code, I bring it to your attention and I become the bad guy, which is quite all right. But the thing is that we need to have a fiduciary responsibility to our 1,800 plus members and help you to get the most out of where your dollars go. I also learned that many people who were part of the legacy that's been around for 20 plus years, being one of them myself, is that we like to do things the way we used to do things because that's the way we were successful. But we have automated the website and done a lot of things to make life a lot easier. So I keep getting reoccurring calls from different individuals, and you find out you end up doing a one-on-one Zoom call, and it's kind of hard to do that with 1,800 people. But the fact is that I do want to help you guys, and I'll never say no to you. If anybody wants help, I'll always make sure you get that. But we have the ability to do so many things, so many good things working together as a team, as a collaborative effort, that we have. I was at a little workshop yesterday, and they were talking about policies. I looked at the policies for Rotary that's 560 pages long. So we have everything well defined. Right now, our district stands at the top of Zone 32. We talked earlier about Zone 32 being made up of about 20 districts. As we work our way around the world and we try to divide the 1.2 million up into controllable models, the zone is made up of a group of districts that are usually around 35,000 Rotarians. It varies because our head count varies on a daily basis. When we start our Rotary year, the number of Rotarians we have on that date gets locked in for calculation purposes because I send reports out to a lot of you on how we're doing, and it's tied to the people that were members of the club on July 1st. You may have 3 people leave your club and 4 come in, but the net effect is we're only measuring the ones that came in for the full year, so you won't be penalized on partials. But I started looking at all the reoccurring questions, so I put a little packet together, which I printed more than 39. I think we have enough for all of the presidents-elect to take home with you, but what I did was I looked at those things that you ask me about frequently, and I put it in a paper copy. I don't do this usually because I believe that it's smarter to save money by getting it to electronically, but if you're uncomfortable looking electronically, please take one of these with you at the end of the day, and I think we have enough for everybody, so if you have more than one, that's fine.
We do, indeed. I want to touch base on some of the things, or pick up some of the things that you dropped in there.
Okay.
First of all, what I heard you say is part of your personal motivation is knowing that the dollars contributed to Rotary are going where donors want them to.
Absolutely.
I heard you say that the idea that Rotarians get to direct those dollars to the causes that the Rotarians care about.
Yes.
That's something that motivates you. And I heard you talk about Rotary's 17th year straight with the highest rating by Charity Navigator, which we are among the 0.0002% of charities in the world to achieve that designation. So that is something for every Rotarian to be proud of. And I also heard you talk about your learning, earning, and returning model, which I think is a beautiful way to summarize what we all hope to do as Rotarians. It made me think that in my work, I'm specifically a major gift officer for the Rotary Foundation, and so I'm working with individuals who are trying to navigate their way towards a 5, 6, 7-figure gift to the Rotary Foundation. I haven't yet found someone with that 8-figure gift, but if you know them, please make sure you get my card. And there's one word that I always hear those individuals say at the end. Yes, these are people who care a lot about return on investment, right? When you think about a return on investment to a charity like Rotary, you're not looking at dividends or dollars. You're looking at the smile on a child's face after they had cleft palate surgery, right? You're seeing the report card of a student who was able to go to school instead of carrying water across their village. You see the small business owner who's able to have a livelihood as a result of the impacts that Rotary has made to support their operations. And you see all of these returns that can't be measured by dollars alone. So return on investment isn't something that I often talk about with my donors. But what we do talk about is trust. The #1 reason Rotarians support the Rotary Foundation is because they trust that the Rotarian across the world on the other side who's putting that dollar to work shares the same values and the same care for their community that you do right here. So let's talk for a moment about the ways members of this district invest in the Rotary Foundation. Ron just noted that you guys are top givers in Zone 32, which is no small feat. That includes metropolitan New York City. That includes some of the most affluent communities in America, and you guys still come in as #1. That's almost $250,000 every year that you're giving to the annual fund, where the dollars come back through district and global grants that you're able to put to work, to Polio Plus, which you guys fell just short of that goal last year, and I look forward to seeing what you do this year. You're very close already to that goal. And then you had $80,000 going specifically to direct grants that people wanted to support. Another $200,000 building a firm foundation through the endowment fund, all coming from Rotarians in your district. So Ron, I know that you share a little bit of frustration as to the number of people who are making these impacts happen. And I wonder if you can share, just shed some light for the people in this room, who is contributing and what does the impact look like if every Rotarian was able to contribute?
Thank you for that open-ended question that has lots of answers.
We only got 20 minutes, Ron.
All right, using round numbers, we have approximately 1,800 members of our district. We're ranked #1 in our zone in donations, but the donations are coming from approximately 600 of those 1,800. So we're only about 30 to 40% engaged. Once again, at the beginning of my talk, I said I'm not sure why people give, and that's a personal thing. But I have the tools to share with each of the clubs, the various reports. We have a banner recognition report that shows how many members are making donations and so forth. And also, we understand that there's some gaps in there that makes it a little bit difficult. The thing is that if 100% of our Rotarians, all 1,800 of them, gave a minimum of $100 a year, which is one of our thresholds, because now we can be eligible for some of the recognitions from that. just think about over 1,000 people putting an extra $100 in, $100,000 that wasn't there from before, all over and above what we're doing. So we have, over the past couple of years, given $700,000 to the foundation. But the mix is changing. We have multiple ways that we can give money, and it goes into multiple pools. It's managed for us. We've all heard over the years the annual fund and the share fund, because there's a selfish reason for that. That money goes to Rotary International. The rules change on a yearly basis, so many of you have MOUs that you fill out, and you take the grant management seminar so you understand how things occur, and then all of a sudden July 1 comes and you're no longer qualified because you need to do a refresher on your grant management seminar, which is kind of like what we did in the past when we'd meet at the 4 points. We'd go into a all-day session, and the next year we could go to a truncated session for a refresher. So it's very critical that we stay on top of things, because things are changing on a daily basis. And I find that very interesting, because I send you a report saying this is what the numbers were on December 31st. This is the end of the year. Then we're talking a week or so later, and I show you a report. You say, these numbers aren't the same as they were last week. And I say, no, we're in a robust environment. So you're demanding from me that I give you current numbers. But when I ask you to look at the decision rules that we're living by, you say, give me a snapshot from something that was in the past and I'll work with that. I say you need to be aware of what's going on for continuous change, because we're part of the solution that makes our rating as a foundation so high. We live by those rules and we manage the rules going forward. So one thing I tried to do about 5 years ago was to get the number of people signed up for my Rotary accounts up from 42% to 100%. We know that's not doable, but we actually went from 45 to 52%. But when you bring a new member into the club, you invite them in and you share with them your passion and your understanding of how this really makes sense. Those 1,800 Rotarians have some type of a vision of how they can be benefited by giving to the foundation, but then there's a disconnect that occurs along the way. So right now, about 45% of our Rotarians do not have my Rotary account, so I put a challenge out to each club president: make sure that your club's 100% connected. That's kind of like joining a library but never getting the library card. This allows you to get in and see what's going on in Rotary and helps you to move forward from there. But at the same time, encourage those members that are not making contributions on an annual basis to perhaps start with a small amount. If you want to start with $25, that's what some of the clubs do now. Many of the rules say if everybody contributes at least $25, but the average contribution is $100, i.e. you're now eligible for one of the recognitions, because it means there's a few people with deep pockets that are putting more money in to create the average that we're looking for. There's all kinds of little exceptions showing up in the system, which are Rotary International things we need to fix. If somebody puts $100,000 in, all of a sudden the per capita giving for the club jumps out of the side and so forth. But if that money goes away the next year, it drops back down. So everything we need to do needs to be sustainable from year to year. How do we keep it going? So I encourage you to work with your clubs to have 100% engagement at some level. We have positive reinforcement. We give opportunities to do your deposits electronically. You can set it up like a credit card billing on a monthly basis for small amounts and or large amounts. And if you're retired and you want to take advantage of tax breaks, there's things that we can do to help you optimize that going forward.
And that's my job, is to help you do that.
That's right. And I gave up my license as a financial advisor, so I can't give tax advice to you. I encourage you to go to the people that are qualified and certified now. And as they always say, past performance is no indication of future performance. But our goal is to get everybody contributing to some degree and to slowly move that banner up based on your passion for what's right for you, as well as your understanding of how those dollars can be used for you to help people around you in those areas that are of great focus to you.
And I should maybe clarify, I also do not give tax, legal, or financial advice, but I can help you navigate how to do the most good through the Rotary Foundation. So I'm curious, how many people in this room are surprised to hear that only 40% of your members support the foundation? I'm kind of shocked by that number, right? And it reminds me of how shocked I was when I learned about how Rotarians support our #1 project around the globe. Only 1/3 of Rotarians support the Polio Plus initiative. And that really just kind of hit me and made me realize how many people just don't understand what we do with polio and why. And so I love telling this story, and I apologize to those of you who have heard me say it in other contexts. But the way I got to meet some newer Rotarians this morning through speed dating, thank you, Julia. And I remembered the first time that I brought a new member into Rotary. And the very first thing they heard about the Rotary Foundation was an ask to give money to polio. Now you might as well have been telling them that they were giving money to teach mushrooms how to speak German, because the idea of supporting polio, which nobody even knows is a thing, and that's what Rotary is doing to eradicate it across the world, was such a foreign concept. So I love sharing with people the story about how Rotary got engaged with polio and why, as it was shared with me by past Rotary International President Ray Klinging-Smith. He said that, in the 70s, we had Rotary clubs all over the world at that point, and the board looked around and they said, we have 1.2 million people in all corners of the world. What can we do to unite them to do a single project related to service? So they set aside a pot of funding, and they said, let's ask Rotarians, what do you want to do? It's one of my favorite things about Rotary. Rotarians with a good idea get to decide what they want to do. And there was a physician in the Philippines who raised his hand and said, I have an idea. He said, I think that I can fully eradicate polio from the Philippines with the amount of money you have available with this grant. They gave him the grant, he had great success, and they realized they could scale it. So Ray Klinging-Smith told me they walked over to the World Health Organization and they knocked on the door. Hi, we're Rotary. We want to eradicate polio. And they said they got laughed out of the room. They looked at them and they said, you are not public health experts. You are men who sit around and eat chicken for lunch. Get out of here and leave this job to us. And so he said they sheepishly left with their tails between their legs, went back to Rotary's headquarters, and said, well, we know that Rotarians care about this. Let's see what we can do alone. So they launched a new fundraising campaign, and that goal was doubled within a short time. And they said, no, wait a minute, we know we're onto something. They went back to the World Health Organization. They said, hi, we're back. We still want to eradicate polio, and this time we have a substantial chunk of change and 1.2 million people across the globe who care. And that collective power of what Rotary was able to do to have that door opened is really the power of Rotary still today. So when I think about supporting polio, for me, as a millennial, who honestly only had a high school teacher that I knew had polio and had not thought of it since, I think about being a part of something so much greater than I am. And I could talk about polio all day long, but I've had the good pleasure recently of becoming friends with a gentleman who led the polio eradication campaign in Islamabad in recent years. And he was shocked when I told him that the 39 cases we have today are primarily in Pakistan. And he said, well, that can't be. And I said, well, that's what the data says. And he said, that border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, where this virus still lives, is so transient. It's hard to tell who's a Pakistani and who's an Afghan. So those counts don't necessarily mean a nationality. Those counts represent the conflict that exists there. And so I want to turn our discussion to peace just really quickly, because your district is a wonderful supporter of Rotary's peace programs in so many ways. Rotary is about to launch our next peace center out in India, and we've already opened the one in the Middle East. Ron, from your perspective as foundation chair, what are some of the ways you see Rotarians investing in peace, supporting scholars, supporting the area of focus? Where do you see the impact people are making in peace here?
Within our district, we have had a heavy propensity to work with scholars in the past. One of the things we do as a district is we fund 2 grants annually. These are $30,000 global grants. And we take $16,667 with an 80% match from the World Fund to bring it up to $30,000. We're going to be interviewing some students in the near future, and the criteria is very stringent, but we do this in order to keep the continuity going around the world. We also have the opportunity to make large donations to the World Peace Centers, and we have the opportunity, if we really want to focus on education as a source for peace, is to set up endowments. And we can do endowments of whatever size, but we have the ability to take our dollars, and besides putting it to the annual fund or polio or specific grants, we can also go for focus on individual causes, with peace being one of those, education being another, disease prevention and so forth. But each one of us has our own personal bias as to how we can do that. But the thing is that these all tie together. When we improve the quality of life worldwide for these individuals through these initiatives, it leads towards the peace initiative that we're working for. So our areas of focus are collaborated in a very uniform fashion. Makes a lot of sense.
And yes, the members of your district are so supportive across the board. Peace is just one small component of that. It reminded me of, I don't know if anyone read Warren Buffett's last letter to his shareholders this fall, but in it, he talked about Alfred Nobel. Do you remember this? And he said, keep in mind Alfred Nobel, who later became known as founding the Peace Prize. And the story Warren Buffett shared is that Alfred Nobel accidentally read his own obituary in the newspaper once. There was a mix-up, his brother had passed away, and they printed the wrong obituary. And so Nobel read his obituary, and he was known for founding dynamite. And he was not thrilled at the reputation that that was giving him. He did not want his legacy to be known as someone who was destructive. He wanted his legacy to be known as someone who promoted peace. And so what Warren Buffett said as he shared this story, he said, don't count on a newsroom mix-up. Decide what you would like your obituary to say and live the life to deserve it. Greatness does not come about through accumulating great amounts of money, great amounts of publicity, or great power in government. When you help someone in any thousands of ways, you help the world. And to me, that's exactly what Rotarians do through our Rotary Foundation. We're helping people in many thousands of ways, some of which you don't even know. People you will never meet, but you are helping the world. So Ron, we've touched on so many topics and hopefully have not confused people more about the ways that Rotary Foundation has such impact and that you guys impact it. But the opportunities to make a lasting impact are so great. What are some of the resources that you would encourage people to use to educate themselves about the ways to give and the impact that they're having?
Thank you. The annual fund is something that we can contribute to by having 100% donations, 100% of the members making partial donations to the annual fund. And they can do that through individual contributions online. They can do it by mailing a check to Rotary International. We can set it up in a multitude of ways. That money is invested for 3 years, and the money comes back and gets split between district grants and global grants, which we get a chance to define. And so that's definitely a way of us keeping the continuity going. We mentioned briefly, or also polio. The thing about polio is the money is spent the year that it is given. If we give $1,000 or $1,500, I'll use 15 as the example, because Rotary worldwide has encouraged every club to donate a minimum of $1,500. But if your club puts in $1,500 and we send that in for polio eradication, the Gates Foundation matches that 2-for-1, and that becomes $4,500. Although the drop in serum for the child is less than $1, it's an average cost of about $1 per child to immunize them. So if you make a $1,500 donation, you're helping to immunize 4,500 children in the world. And if we had our last case of polio today, we'd continue this process to immunize these young children for the next 3 years through a certification process. So it doesn't end right away. So please keep that in mind as another avenue of service. But the thing is that we want to make it easy for you. You can go on the My Rotary where it says donate, you click, you can go in, you can identify which of the causes that you want to donate to. You can identify a dollar amount. You can put in your credit card information and send that through, and you get a confirmation back very quickly. If you're doing that on behalf of your clubs, some clubs will fill out a paper form and mail it in, and there will be typo errors and so forth. But we now have the ability to go in, pull up your club, put in a pre-populated form that lists all your club members, their club ID numbers, all the things that we make mistakes on, and you can go through and put the quantity per person. It doesn't have to be the same amount, and you can send that through. What I would encourage is your club having a debit card where you can make the payment online rather than sending it by snail mail. We can speed up the process, especially if you're at the end of the year when you're trying to do something before December 31st and there's a series of deadlines. You get anxious, and most people don't know that the form's there, and now that I've told you it's there, most of you will not be able to find it. So the next part is to help educate you on how to find these tools within the website. I'm happy to come to any one of your clubs or to any of your club board meetings to share with you and help you navigate through and get started. Everything we do in Rotary should be sustainable, including foundation giving should be sustainable. You'll hear that word that drives you crazy. When we do grants, they need to be sustainable. So remember sustainable, because you'll hear me say that several times to you as we go forward together. But we need to create recurring models that are positive. Rotary understands that, and we reinforce it through a series of accolades. I wore some of my little badges today that you have to contribute a certain amount to be a Paul Harris. Paul Harris comes one of two ways. You can donate $1,000 over a period of time and get a Paul Harris. Your club can say you're worthwhile because of your in-kind contribution. They can donate 1,000 Paul Harris points and you get a Paul Harris. The first time you get one, you also get a nice certificate with it. And our goal is that each year you get a Paul Harris going forward until you hit major donor and so forth. And if you want to do that, we need to set you up so that you're donating $1,000 a year, and you can use the same model for that as well. As we go through our life and we look at our success factors, our income increases, but many times our contributions don't increase at the same level. We need to be cognizant of that as well. How much can we give back, still maintain that quality of life that we're looking for, and have that peace of mind in our heart, because what we're giving, the only way we're going to recognize the importance of our gifts is by how it makes us feel inside. If we feel right about what we're giving and we feel good about it because we know where it goes where we want it to go, we'll do it over and over and over again. If we don't, we'll look for other sources of satisfaction. And we want you all to be happy, healthy Rotary donators. Thank you.
And it all starts somewhere. I love these 26.5 buttons because 2650 was the first amount given to the Rotary's endowment back in 1917. And it made me think, if everyone here wearing a button gave 2650 to the endowment, that would be a wonderful foundation for your future here. So I want to just close with a little vignette that happened when I was at Rotary's headquarters this fall at an induction of our newest class of Arch Club Society members. They do a tour of one Rotary Center, which I encourage every Rotarian to do if you're ever in the Chicago area. And the tour guide gestured up on the wall. There's a photo of Paul Harris and the three other dudes whose names I am learning, from when they first started the first Rotary Club. And she said they had no idea what they were starting. And it just made me think, none of us have any idea of the history we are making right now with the actions we are doing in our Rotary clubs. But your engagement in your clubs, your service to your community, your leveraging of our Rotary Foundation is bound to make history. It's changing someone's life as an individual, it's changing communities at large, and it's changing yourself inside of you. And so I encourage every single one of you, however you are able to, however you choose to, however you inspire others, start somewhere. Start something towards the lasting impact that you're going to make this year and next year, and as Ron says, sustainably moving forward. So thank you guys for joining us for this conversation. Thank you, Ron. Let's be around. Does anyone have a question?
Yeah, just a real quick question. I was not surprised to see the percentage of people that are actually giving, because it kind of reflects what's happening in our club as well. But I think the reason for that is most people don't understand what the foundation does. I was wondering, have you guys considered doing a promotional call to action video that we could show in our clubs on a quarterly basis or something like that, that'll, remind people? We always have a push at the end of the year because you get your tax deduction in, but it would be nice to have something that we could show, so here's what the foundation does, here's why you should be giving, and show it on a quarterly basis. Is there anything like that?
I don't see Stephanie in here,
She just got that.
but I
can do that.
did hear Julia say earlier that District Governor Stephanie has a video competition going on right now. And I was hoping the foundation might be one of those areas. The Rotary Foundation does have some videos you can share. I will say we are currently working with our communications team at Rotary International, which we have to beg to get access to create some more evergreen foundation content for you guys, for us to use as staff as well. But I strongly encourage always the Giving Tuesday message that comes out through Rotary is a really powerful one. The year-end video that comes out when we celebrate the success is a wonderful one that few Rotarians see unless you're sharing them in your clubs. And so, Ron noted some of the resources that are available. I know Laura was also talking about the Brand Center. Use some of the content that's available for you for sure. There's also, I know Ron will talk until you stop listening, to the Learning Center, and there are actually some wonderful snippets in there that you can use as well. I agree, the Rotary Foundation is the greatest secret in the Rotary world. If more people understood the impact we could be making through it, more people would be engaging. So thank you very much for that question.
One added, I send out a foundation moment periodically. I can attach to it links to some of the videos so that you can have those to share with your club. So most of you should be getting but the foundation moments, so we'll continue that.
All right, thank you guys
Thank
for
you.
handing it over to Don.
Pick up Wendy's on the way out.